So with that, I want to introduce Steve, while we're inviting folks to the podium. The next is pretty interesting. These are three companies that presented at FashinVest throughout its history of 4 years, and have gone on to raise capital. Their alumni panel is hosted by Steve Wiss of Cohn Resnick. Steve has been working with FashinVest since the inception. Cohn Resnick is a global accounting firm, national accounting firm, focused specifically on mid-tier, middle market, and growth-oriented businesses. And Steve runs the retail practice and fashion practice. And Steve, I want to welcome you today. Quickly, our panelists are Benita Singh, who is co-founder and CEO of Source for Style, 2010 alum. I'll quickly introduce themselves. Nicole Gardner, who's COO of Dormify, which is a really interesting business about when you go to college and kids off of college, one's getting out of college, one's going, how to get the dorms fashionably ready. I went with a milk crate. It's very different nowadays. Sorry, Azu, who could not be with us today. This is a really interesting story. There's S-A-R-I, sorry, and sorry, who started Bib and Tuck. So we have the other co-founder with us today, Sorry Bibowitz, who will tell the story. With that, I'd like to turn this over to Steve Wiss, and you can take it from here with these three remarkable growing entrepreneurs.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. I think that this panel discussion is going to be of a lot of interest to the audience here. We've got some ladies here who've been through the process, who have gone through it, had some success, and ready to share their experiences with the group. We'll talk for about minutes, and then we'll open up for questions from the audience. So I guess just to start, each one of you introduce yourselves, the company, and tell us a little bit about your experience with fashion.
Hi, I'm Nicole Gardner. I'm with Worldcast. We're an online college lifestyle brand that designs and curates products that are fashionable for, specifically for college students to help decorate small spaces. We participated in FashinVest last year, and through the process, we raised 2 rounds of seed funding prior to FashinVest, one prior and post FashinVest last year. So we're just going to our second round.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bibowitz, and I'm the co-founder of Bib and Tuck. So Bib and Tuck essentially is shopping without spending. That's our slogan, and it's an online community for people to exchange clothing. So the way it works is you list something for a number of credits, and when someone buys that from you, then those credits buy anything else on the site. So it's sort of like barter for fashion. People that really love style and clothes. We were in FashinVest last year as well, and we weren't really sure if we wanted to raise money. We had to extract our entire process before that, and so this sort of encouraged us and taught us a couple things, and we went out and raised a seed round last March, and yeah, it's been great so far.
Hi, I'm Benita Singh. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Source for Style. Source for Style is an online global sourcing platform that connects fashion designers directly to a curated and comprehensive selection of textile mills around the world. So we work with textile mills in about 38 countries. Our buyer base, which is primarily focused on independent designers with a small brand, comes from 78 countries, and we have a sourcing software that allows them to search, sample, source, and customize textiles, essentially creating an online trade show. And we actually presented at FashinVest, which might have been the first year back in 2010, so 3 years ago. And after that, we got a lot of great feedback, had a lot of great meetings with investors, and also saw that we had a big idea and a lot to do with that big idea. So we actually did not go out and raise capital until 2012, so just over a year ago, but the experience itself was still extremely invaluable and opened up a lot of doors for us that we maintained over the 1.5 years that we took to raise our first round of capital.
Tell us a little bit about some of that feedback that you received from the investors that you found to be valuable and really helpful.
There were numerous points of feedback and things that we had to think about. I think that when you see a great market opportunity, that's the first step. But in terms of what is your execution strategy, that's a whole other question. What segment of the market are you going to focus on first? Is your platform going to be tailored for the independent designer or for the brand? Who's your target market? Which countries are you going to focus on? We had such a big idea that it really needed to be distilled down further into a very clear, comprehensive execution strategy for an investor. We also needed to really understand how big is this market. We have a strong focus on sustainability on our platform, and all suppliers on Source for Style have a certain level of social compliance. So really understanding what is your value and how are you communicating that to the user and how does that affect your market size as well, were just a few of the pieces of feedback.
Sorry, what kind of feedback did you get that you really valuable?
Yeah, so for us, we really bootstrapped the company at the beginning, and we created the entire platform with about $20,000, and so we really wanted to have something to show, some sort of a viable product, so that when we went out to raise, we really had a story and we really had something more than just an idea and more than just two girls who wanted to share clothes with each other. And so once we were able to, develop the website, have more than just this initial concept, we went out, spoke to some investors, and realized that, it's really about you as an entrepreneur. They're investing in you as a person and not necessarily the idea. So we have to have, something to show, as well as be very passionate and very excited and, really driven about what we were going to do. And they're going to give us money. They want to make sure that it's going to the right person and the right idea.
For us, it was really, we had started fundraising earlier, just after our initial site was launched, and it was more friends and family based than our second round. So instead of formal meetings and pitches, we had started out just kind of over time having conversations with people that we knew in our networks who eventually became investors. Then after FashinVest, we realized that we really needed to button up our presentation and have more of a formal pitch for investors we were looking for the second round, because we really got excited about so many things and had so many aspects to our brand, and we learned that we were focusing sometimes on the wrong things. So going through the process and hearing feedback from the FashinVest panels and some of the coaches that were helping before helped us figure out really what the core of our story needed to be and focus the pitch, knowing that there's opportunity for so many things to expand into later, but just really button it up and create a tight presentation.
Each of you to share one thing in common, which is an online business model. How difficult and challenging was it in getting investors to truly understand your business model? I see a lot with my prospects and clients, it's just tough to get your head around how you're going to be profitable and how it makes sense as a business model. How difficult was it for you guys?
For us, it was very much about finding investors who really believed in the idea and were able to understand where we wanted to take it. So we didn't really go with people who didn't get it at the start. Our main investor was Chris Burge, and he really got what we were doing as soon as we went in. He really understood our vision as a company and as two entrepreneurs, and so it was much more about us finding the people that we kind of jive with and really believed in us, not really trying to educate them on what it should be or what we were trying to do.
Yeah, for us it was really not an issue that ever came up that much because we're such a seasonal business. Our prime season is the back to school summer few months. So for us, it would never even make sense to have a retail brick and mortar store. It would just be way too much overhead and wasted space for 9 months out of the year that the people who were attracted to it liked the idea that we were able to create this business focused on one huge market and able to have it year-round sustainable with low overheads.
Yeah, I think there'll always be a very healthy dynamic and give and take between an entrepreneur and an investor in terms of feedback, new ideas, and pushback that the entrepreneur has to give in turn. But I think that, that said, if you are in a meeting or if you're meeting with an investor who just doesn't get it or, is not sold on the idea, that might not be the investor for you, but that doesn't mean that your idea still doesn't have legs. And something that we did when we were looking out for funding is looking for people who had replicated or people who had done what we were seeking to do in the textiles vertical and another vertical. And that was successful for us. We found investors who both knew how to build B2B marketplaces in the fashion industry and saw the potential in ours because they had done it before.
Yeah, it seems certainly in your case, perseverance and patience are two of the key qualities to have. What were some frustrations in going through the process, and how did you overcome them and deal with them? Well, there were no frustrations. It's nice and easy. Money just comes to the
For
door.
us, it was mostly we were trying to raise money as quickly as possible and just get back to doing what we were trying to do, which is build a company. And so we really wanted to create some sense of urgency to the investors and be like, listen, this is what we want to do, this is when we want to close, and that's the end of it. And just do it as quickly as possible, go through that process, and get back to work. So I think our frustration was just having the process extended more than we would have liked.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think that that's also a place where I think entrepreneurs can often do a better job of every investor wants to see different numbers. Every investor has a different idea about where the potential is with the business, and it's very easy as an entrepreneur who's raising funding to build 10 different financial models for 10 different investors and spend all of your time doing that rather than building up the business. And I think that's where an entrepreneur can really push back a little bit and say, that's a great idea. In a few weeks I'd love to explore that in a financial model. Here's what we have explored thus far, and continue the conversation that way. Because it's so easy to get caught up in the game of it. And I personally think an investor will respect you more for showing that you really need to get back to your business to grow it.
Now, you've each gone through and raised some capital, and at some point, you've got to go into it over again, and maybe you're in the process of it now. What's easier or more difficult about that second raise or going back and doing it over again?
For us, when we did FashinVest last year, we weren't really sure if we were going to do a second round of funding yet. We were thinking about it and figured we would need to at some point in the next 6 months, but it wasn't really on our radar yet, and the opportunity came up, so we signed up to do it. But I think for us, we've learned that you kind of have to always be thinking about the next, even if you don't think the next is for another 2 years. We've learned just from talking to people is that you have to start thinking for what you want to do 5 years from now. So we've kind of shifted our mindset from the beginning to just kind of always be thinking about if an opportunity arose, what we could do and be ready. Because the last thing you want to do is be at a point where you really need it and are desperate and aren't able to find it.
We haven't raised a second round yet, so I can't really answer that question, but I guess it's about just being strategic about where you really put your money, and we've been really great as allocating the money where it should go and spending it really well. And so I think it's about making sure that you do that the entire process so that when you need to raise more, it went to the right place and you can show that to the investors.
And we're just right now in the very, very early stages of raising our second round of capital. And the good thing about it is that you're still selling an idea to new investors, but you're selling metrics, you're selling progress, you're selling traction. So that kind of in a way allows you to focus on the business because that's what second round investors are really looking at. Also, I think just we have a mailing list of interested investors that we've spoken to throughout the process, and we just email every quarter to keep abreast of our progress. So it's not like hey, I'm knocking on your door because I need money right now. It's more of a relationship and a partnership.
You always hear every successful entrepreneur has made mistakes and has failed, has learned from them. Looking back now, has there been any mistake that's in that mind or anything that you learned from that you wish you could have done better? Just quite that question.
Not knowing what I say on stage.
Raising or in general?
Just in general, with the experience of going through process, raising, taking the next steps, looking at the vision of the company and strategy, anything that you've learned so far that you wish maybe you know a little different.
And I think that this is pretty vague, but I think often entrepreneurs have to go with their guts, and you have to prioritize, you have to make quick decisions. And I think the mistakes that I've made as an entrepreneur have been when I don't go with my gut, whether it's hire, whether it's a strategic decision. And on that note, we did make through our seed round a pretty significant product pivot, which I realized while we were making it, that if I had gone with my gut, that we wouldn't be making this pivot right now. But we transitioned from a membership model to a transactional model, basically, the Source for Style is now free for designers after they go through an application process. And that was something that, was a learning. Definitely, I don't know if I would call it a mistake, but more of a pivot and something that we learned from. But it was, in retrospect, something that happened because we as a company weren't going with our gut.
Okay. And in that vein of going with you guys, what kind of advice would you guys give to presenting companies that you're doing it from today on how to achieve success and go out there and get some money?
Sure, yeah. What I would say is, there's so many great ideas out there, so it's really about the way you deliver it and the story you create around it, and the execution around it. So when you go out to pitch it, just really have something that shows your passion and really interests these investors and have a great story to tell, and that will sort of get you through the next combo of being able to show your execution strategy, what you're going to do with money, what you're going to do with whatever it is that your next steps are as a company. So I think it's about having a good story, delivering it properly, and also having the right execution strategy of where you're going to put your money and how you're going to spend it, which is what they want to know.
For us, it was definitely knowing our strengths. Our founding team all came from creative backgrounds, and the whole concept of Dormify is around the design of the products and also the brand. So we built this really creative brand that has a fun personality and a fun vibe. So throughout every aspect of even our fundraising process, we've injected that personality into it. So even when we've been told that you don't want to make your financial statements too pretty and do things, make your presentations like too informal or fun, we found that's what actually made it stand out to a lot of people who were talking to us, because we were proving in those kind of more formal presentations what our capabilities are and what our vision for the brand was. So for us, it was just playing with that strength and really showing our passion through every touch point of the process.
I would just say to have calm confidence and let your product and let everything you've achieved speak for itself. I think that the best presentations I've seen at conferences like this are presenters who speak slowly, articulately, and just have that calm confidence about what they've built.
Before we open up to questions, I'm sure there's going to be tons of questions from the audience. Any advice for the investors, those that just didn't get it or didn't invest in you guys? What would you say to the investors that maybe they should be doing better when listening to these companies.
I mean, from our perspective, we don't really want an investor involved that's not as passionate about